as game 1 will be taking place on Royal Blood. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Royal Blood, we have the Italian Zerg player representing Team Basilisk. It is Reynor. And spawning in the top right hand corner of Royal Blood, we have his opponent. We have the Red Protoss representing Team Liquid. It is SKillous. Boy, here we go. And overall, I'm pretty excited. Big fan of SKillous here. We get to cast so much of him over here on the CranKy Ducklings, whether it's in online events like OSC King of the Hill or the Team League matches like WTL as well. SKillous, in a way, kind of like Spirit, has been really improving over time. I don't think he's had as much of a major breakout performance like Spirit did, especially in ESL Masters EU. But regardless, SKillous has been improving quite heavily over the past couple of years and really solidifying himself as one of the best Protosses in Europe. I think I've said this before, but I think I would say that SKillous is top 3. I think there's probably still a bit of a gap between SKillous and Showtime alongside MaxPax, as they are kind of top 2 in EU. But I do think that SKillous is going to be taking that 3rd place and looking to close that gap. And a series like this is a series that would be pretty important for him, for that to happen, you know, to really showcase his skill and show that he can go toe-to-toe with the best in Europe. Meanwhile, Reynor is coming in as the favorite. Kind of the odd one out in a way. Like, Reynor is one of the best players in Europe, period. When people think of the top players in Europe, they think MaxPax, Serral, Clem, and Reynor, which is why it was such a big deal. It was such a massive, I think I would say, upset, or like a really solid result for Spirit to overcome Reynor and knock him out of ESL EU, of the European playoffs, of the European regionals. Like, it was such a big moment for Spirit, and that really does kind of show off to like the more international audience that, hey, Spirit, he's here and he has been improving, and now he can actually go toe-to-toe with the best of them. So that was a really big moment for Spirit. Unfortunately, not as much for Reynor, because, you know, Reynor just kind of get knocked down to, or he would have not been a part of the invites at all for DreamHack Young Shipping. So again, pretty fortunate for Reynor to be given the opportunity to kind of make up for that in a way here in this bracket, in this match against SKillous. But SKillous is already mixing things up. We have a Robo Opener instead. Okay. You have my attention, Bob. You have my attention. Was a pretty standard opener from Reynor. Hatch gas pool into his 3rd base. No 15 hatch, unfortunately, so he wasn't able to get his natural on location. Meanwhile, SKillous going for this Robo Opener could be for something like Disruptor drops. There we go. We have the Prism on the way. We have the Robo on the way as well. So this will be for those Disruptors. This is a build that pops up every now and then, but very rare. And the reason why this is rare is because this is heavily reliant on your opponents messing up in their own control as well, right? Like, Purification Novas, they're a high risk, high reward. And if Reynor isn't prepared, if he isn't on point with his splits against the Novas, then this can do a lot of damage. But if Reynor is in position with his queens, if he zones away the Prism, if he splits against the Novas, then this is going to be difficult to make a payoff here for SKillous. Especially because it's going to take so long for him to get into his gateway upgrades, like his Twilight Council, Blink, Charge, Glaives even. His overall army is going to suffer as a result, as he's just spending so much resources to rush out in these Disruptors. And of course, Reynor scouted this. Reynor, he saw the Robo Opener, and this is one of the most common follow-ups of a Robo Opener. So Reynor knows he just has to make queens, spread creep, drone up heavily, and have enough units in time to help deal with that first drop. As Reynor is going to confirm by diving back into the main, and he will be getting eyes on the Bay. So again, great scouting here by Reynor. He does confirm it, sees it researching. Now the first Disruptor is upon us. So this is hitting a little bit faster. Usually you wait for 2 Disruptors, but he's coming in with the first already. The Queens are in position. The Prism is being forced back. And so far, SKillous hasn't done any damage yet. But what's important is that he keeps the Prism alive, he keeps the Disruptor alive, he's racing back home so he can pick up his second Disruptor and go for the double jump. He can still get value off of this. Meanwhile, behind this, SKillous is transitioning, he's going into a Twilight Council Forge and starting Immortal production as well because he needs units. Units would be nice, so he's prioritizing that Immortal as well to make sure he has some kind of standing army, to make sure he doesn't die to any kind of big counterattack. Queens once again are in position at the natural. Novas are going to be going off on the Lings. Ooh, but does not connect in the end. Does get a drone, which is nice. Does delay the fourth. At the same time, the Lings were distracted, so that does create an opening for these Adepts. Ooh, 2 drones go down. We force a couple of Spore Crawlers as well. Oh, I love the unburrow. Oh, that was so cute. Up! But the Novas are coming in and they will! Oh, find some juicy connections as Reynor was distracted, cleaning up those Adepts. 10 drones go down and the Disruptors. Oh, one of them survived. The other did go down, so I was actually just about to praise SKillous there for getting a lot of damage done, but he did lose a Disruptor, which is less than ideal. I still think this is a better trade for SKillous, if not for the fact that every Disruptor counts so much, just because SKillous has so little, right? Like, this is his army. This is all he has. Now he only has 1 more Disruptor left. I believe he just made a third, so he's going to be able to replace one he just lost. But like, every unit that SKillous has is so crucial in the early to mid game, just because he's got nothing else, you know? Oh boy. As Reynor is going to be threatening a counterattack with his Lings. Roach production has commenced, +1 melee, Roach speed as well. Reynor is now amassing an army. As the Disruptors, they come back in. Ooh, once again, good detonations. 7 more drones go down, 17 in total to these Disruptors. And enough time has passed where, okay, now we have a wall, now we have some shield batteries, cannons, a better defensive position, High Templar to be morphed into Archons. I was getting a little bit worrisome earlier, but SKillous is getting into a more well-rounded, robust army. And Reynor is just more heavily focused with getting his 4th base up and running and getting fully saturated. Speaking of, Reynor is now at that juicy spot of 81 workers. His creep spread is looking insane as well, as he's reaching that halfway mark. And now Reynor can focus on the main assault on his army. Disruptors are once again being a little bit annoying, and they almost do go down, but a hot pickup by SKillous does save them. He's going to be threatening with his Stalkers. And Reynor is looking to max out on Ling, Roach, Ravager. SKillous, alas, I don't think he's quite ready for this. He doesn't quite have a standing army to contest against this. The base is going to be going down. Up! Oh, and we don't even get detonation on that Nova. Disruptor gets focused down just in time. SKillous is going to be forcing back this army at the same time. Reynor is setting up for a Link counterattack. The Archons are falling. The Zealots get cleaned up. The Lings do commit into that run by, but looks like there isn't quite an opening. And the defensive position here from SKillous is actually pretty impressive. He's got a full wall off. He's got 3 shield batteries, 2 cannons. His 3rd base is perfectly fine. And SKillous is trying to establish this center base here to be a launch pad for his army to just push forward onto creep. We'll see if he can. Again, we have 1 Disruptor behind this. Nova's going to be going off. We have a pretty good split. Only 1 Ravager goes down. Banelings are coming in from behind. And there is nowhere to go. Another Nova will find a juicy connection, but 1 Purification Nova is not going to be enough. There's just too much Ling Bane, too much Ravager. This 4th base wasn't up in time. We didn't have shield batteries. We didn't have an overcharge. It was all delayed. And in one fell swoop, Reynor cleans up the army and takes game 1. Oh, GG. Oh. Oh, God. a really nice opener from SKillous. We don't get to see Disruptor drop openers too often anymore. It's very out of meta nowadays, just because of how risky it can be. But he did make it pay for itself. He got a lot of economic damage done with it. But that 4th base initially being cancelled was pretty huge. Again, without that base, that means the defensive position there is just so much weaker. You don't have overcharge for your shield batteries. You don't have shield batteries, period, either. Without that, SKillous was having a hard time fending off that army. GG. On top of that, shout out to Reynor for his great target firing as well. He was doing a really good job at just shaving off the disruptor count over time, and there was never like a critical mass of disruptors. As a result, like, again, SKillous was pretty heavily reliant upon them to try and survive against the Road Ravager. We saw like one good Nova, but only one against the army, I mean. GG. And with that, now we're going to be getting into game number 2. Oh, and as we get into game 2, massive shout out to Melis Melee. Melis Melee? I don't know how to pronounce it, but thank you so much for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Gracias, papi, gracias. I appreciate it. We appreciate the support that we do get on this channel. Thank you, papi, thank you. As always, gracias, gracias. As we're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gress Farm, we have the Italian Zerg player representing Team Basilisk. It is Reynor. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gress Farm, we have his opponent. We have the Red Protoss representing Team Liquid. It is SKillous. Oh boy. Once again, no 15 hatch out of Reynor, so just going to be going for a standard opener here instead. Hatch, soon to be gas, soon to be pool. But my eyes are on SKillous, to be honest. My eyes are on SKillous. He already showed us a more peculiar robo opener build here already in this series, and with that, it's just showing us, it's revealing to us that, hey, SKillous, he's willing to think outside the box and go for these more, you know, out of meta builds if need be up against Reynor. And it makes sense, right? Like, Reynor is coming in as the favorite, so SKillous wants to try and catch him off guard and do something out of the norm. We'll see where else he can take us here. I'm sure at some point in this series we will have a, you know, a Stargate opener into double Oracle, into a 3rd base, like into Twilight Council Blink. I'm sure we'll get a more standard game out of SKillous at some point. But you know, I want something else. I want more, Papi. I want more. Let's go. Because, you know, there is kind of a wide array of openers available for Protoss. They can go for a Twilight Council into DTs, they can go for Glaive Adepts, and, like, even talking about Glaive Adepts, there are so many different variations of Glaive Adepts as well. You can go 4-gate, you can go 4-gate DT, you can go 6-gate, you can go into a faster Robotics Bay follow-up into Disruptors. Yeah, there's kind of a lot available there if SKillous did want to open up that can of worms, but, or the Pandora's box of Glaive Adepts. But we'll see what we get into, as for the time being, Reynor is just opening up standard. Nothing too crazy. Got to be fending off this probe so we can actually get his 3rd base up and running. And SKillous is going for that Stargate. Okay. Let's go, Papi. Let's go. And with the Stargates, we can, of course, get into Oracle production and go into a 3rd base and get into an economic standard build here for Protoss. Otherwise, we could mix things up. We can go for like a Void Ray first or a Phoenix first as well, just to clean out these Overlords and to keep Reynor in the dark. Before that happens, one drone is going to be going down. Only one, as the first adept does get cleaned up. With that, SKillous is going to lose a little firepower. Behind this, he does go for a Stalker, so he is going to be revealing to his opponents at least the makings of a Twilight Council opener. Stalkers are a little bit less common when you do go for a Stargate. But eventually the Oracle will reveal itself. Lings of Reynor are free to move out across the map as well. Because the first Adept was killed, you know, SKillous, he can't be as aggressive with Adept, so Reynor, he's free to just chill out here across the map, especially considering that we don't have a second Adept. It was the second, or it was Stalker as a second unit. So Reynor has the map control, and SKillous is going to be skirting the edge of the map. Okay, I kind of like this. As there are no spores available here, Reynor is still unawares of the opener. Hasn't really confirmed the Stargate. As it is going to try to sneak out across the map, and the space is looking pretty exposed. Spore gets thrown down now, but it is very, very late. There are no queens. Oh! Quick reaction out of Reynor. He does pull back immediately. Forced to morph into 3 of these spores, but damage is still being done. 2 drones, 3 spores. Not bad damage here from the first Oracle of Spirit. SKillous. I'm still waking up, happy. Okay. As the 3 oracles are gonna shade into the third base, and they're gonna be able to target down quite a lot of these drones. 6 drones do go down. Behind this, we are getting into a Twilight Council with throwing down to some gateways, and there is that forge as well. Bit of a later forge, but a forge nonetheless. And this is going to be for +1 Blink Stalkers. Okay. And we'll see how aggressive SKillous is going to be with this. Now that Reynor has confirmed what the opener is as well, after seeing all these oracles, he's going for a fast Evo chamber to get into +1 melee. Again, Lings are the unit of choice here that you want against Blink Stalkers. I'm also excited to see what kind of composition Reynor is going to go for as well. I do know that just pure Ling Bane into Hive Tech has been gaining popularity recently against this kind of composition that SKillous is going for. Otherwise, you can just go Ling Bane Roach Ravager, right? It makes sense. It's pretty solid all around. More lair tech oriented, but can work out quite well. The other thing you can go for if you know 100% that it is +1 Blink Stalkers, you can go Ling Hydra. Ling Hydra has a more seamless transition into lurker play as well, which is just a great way to solidify your position and to take away a lot of the momentum of the Protoss. But for the time being, Reynor is just going pure Ling. Stalkers trying to be active, taking out whatever tumors they can. Yeah, and oh, yo, Reynor, he's been watching some Dark. I love it, Papi, I love it. As the Lings are going to be shutting this down, the Queens push forward as well. Oracles are looking to support their army, but no, the Queens do target them down. Ooh, and these are some big losses for SKillous. He's losing so many Stalkers. And this is dangerous. So this composition, this kind of playstyle from SKillous relies so heavily upon keeping that Stalker count alive through the early to mid game and snowballing over time. But 5 Stalkers do go down. Meanwhile, it is going to be Ling straight into Hive. This does kind of scream Ultras to me, but we'll see. We'll see what Reynor goes for. Ah, there we go. It is going to be a Hydra then. So it looks like it is going to be Ling Hydra into Lurkers, and the Hive will help out with the Lurker tech. Before that happens, we do see a surround being set up. We have a blink, but the Ling's coming from behind. We force a recall. The setup, the positioning of Reynor was just too good. He's even able to just barely spread creep here just before it recedes in the middle of the map, or just outside the third. Reynor has so much map control right now. He can do whatever he wants. Catching another Stalker. Meanwhile, Reynor, he's just going to be taking his 4th base, getting his 5th up and running, getting them fully saturated. There's that Lurker den that we were talking about. Again, there isn't really too much pressuring him, so he can get away with... I mean, he hasn't even made any Hydras right now. Like, he's being so efficient with how he's spending his gas. Teching up. From here, he can get into Adrenal Glands as well, off of his Hive. And SKillous is just hurling up. Like, SKillous, in a way, has relinquished map control to Reynor. He's like, you know what? I've lost too many Stalkers already. I know that I can no longer be active. I've been even losing some of my Oracles. He actually lost every single Oracle, now that I double check. And with that, he's just stuck at home. SKillous is turtling. And Reynor, If you thought he had map control before, like, he can, again, just do whatever he wants, spread as much creep as he can, take every single base on his side of the map. And lurkers are now on the way. That's not to say that SKillous isn't doing anything with this time. Like, he is taking up and he has Storm. So he has a good army against Lingbane Hydra. He doesn't have a good answer to lurkers, not yet. Storm is okay, Immortals are okay, but the Immortal count needs to get higher, and honestly, especially because of how we're playing, I wouldn't mind SKillous going to a second Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. I wouldn't be opposed to Sky Toss, but at this point it's a little bit too late. Like, we're still committed to a Ground Toss army, we're still making Immortals, and Reynor is about to max out. Like, the problem right now is that tech-wise, there's still no answer. There's no Bay to get into Disruptors. If we get into a high enough Immortal count, Immortals can counter Lurkers. They can spread and focus fire and do quite well for themselves. But that's if we hit like 6 or 7 Immortals. As it stands, the Lunkers are out. They're going to be bullying, but we do have a bit of a Zealot runby on the right-hand side, but it does get cleaned up. SKillous trying to find a way in, but the Lurkers do rotate to meet them. We see Reynor, he's setting up a surround. The Lings, they come in from the front. The Lurkers coming from behind as well. There is no escape. The High Templar. Oh, every single High Templar is going to be going down. Ay, ay, ay. Not just High Templar, the entire army. Oof. And Reynor can just remax from here. SKillous. It takes so long to rebuild those high-tech units, the High Templar, the Archons, the Immortals. He's going for a Zealot drop into the main base. He does buy time, he distracts Reynor, but I mean, Reynor was backing off to max out anyway. We can see SKillous trying to muster up another force, and you know, he's got two Immortals, he's got 2 Archons. It's something, but it's not going to be enough. Reynor, he commits to a counterattack. The main army of SKillous is going to be pushing through the center, though. We do see some Zealots in the main base as well. SKillous is trying to pull Reynor apart. But if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we don't have detection. There we go. We have a revelation on these lurkers. SKillous will be winning the fight here in the middle of the map, but at the same time, he's losing his third. He's lost 22 workers, and Reynor can keep pushing. He can break into the natural and get on top of the production. Meanwhile, we see SKillous continuing to push on forward. He gets another revelation on the defensive lurkers of Reynor. SKillous is pretty all in with this push. He has to end the game with this army. And he loses another Immortal. Meanwhile, those Robos are under threat. Oh, Jesus. Lurkers laying siege upon the 4th base, and SKillous turns around. SKillous turns around. He's going to try and protect what he has left at home. I mean, he's going to be able to catch these lurkers, sure. But what's he going to be left with? What's he really saving at this point? He's got 41 workers. Not too much saturation going on. Reynor, he remaxes, rebuilds. And there's nothing left, Papi. There's nothing left. SKillous is going to be able to push away these Lings, but again, these lurkers stand strong. You see SKillous trying to set up a surround or trying to come in from multiple angles. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough energy for storms. The Zealots, they get annihilated. GG gets called. Reynor has too much, and he will be taking game number 2. GG. Oh. Again, Reynor just getting map control pretty early on. SKillous, unfortunately, he wasn't able to scout what tech Reynor was going for. That was kind of the big thing there, was that SKillous didn't know that Reynor was rushing into lurkers. If he did, I'm sure he would have gone for a different tech path after he decided to turtle up, I mean. Unfortunately, SKillous, if you remember, when he was turtling up, when he had kind of stopped being active with his stalkers and when he had backed off, he lost all of his oracles. So he just didn't have a way to be active on the map and get any kind of scouting information. He had no sentries for hallucinations. His observers were heavily delayed as well, and he lost his oracle, so he was just kind of just turtling up back at home, trying to get into a solid ground army. Oh, and not quite ready for those lurkers in the end. And now we're getting ready for game number 2. Number 3. Let's go. And here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have the Italian Zerg player currently up 2-0 in this best of 5 match. Representing Team Basilisk, it is Reynor. Oh, he's going for the 15 hatch. Let's go. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have his opponent. We have the Red Protoss. Representing Team Liquid, it is SKillous. So with the cancel of that gas geyser with the 15 drone count, Reynor is going to be able to take his hatchery on location. SKillous shows up but will not be able to deny it. And with that Reynor, he's going to have a nice kind of base layout here with his natural actually being at his natural base location. Not something you see too often in ZvP, but this is becoming a lot more popular, a lot more common nowadays. It's been really cool to see players like Dark, players like Ragnarok, Cyril as well, adopt the 15 hatch, not just on Neo Humanity, but on some of the other standard maps as well. But Reynor so far has only whipped this out on the smaller map, just to make sure, you know, he's safe and secure. So with this, SKillous does have to keep an eye on Reynor because it is a hatch pool gas opener. So with this, Reynor also has access to faster lings if he wants to. Only if he wants to. I imagine he's only going to make 2 lings and queens. The 2 lings just to deal with this 1 probe. But we'll see. We'll see if he commits. Like, Reynor is the kind of player to be aggressive early on if he sees an opportunity to. I mean, he's up 2-0 in this series. On Neo Humanity, I would expect him to be aggressive. Well, we'll see though. We'll see. SKillous is being forced back. And behind this, likewise, SKillous is going for a gate expand. Setting up back at home. So far, we've seen a robot opener from SKillous. We've also seen a Stargate. Are we going to go for something different here? As Reynor is going for, what was that? A 2-minute, like 15 Evo chamber. A very early Evo chamber here from Reynor. This is looking like a Ling Flood. Oh boy. Let's go, Papi, let's go. So what's interesting is that Reynor hasn't made any lings. Because of that, he actually can't expand. This probe is being as annoying as possible. If Reynor did try to send a drone here, then the probe would throw down a pylon and basically block him. And we can see SKillous, he's like trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, hold up, are you taking the 3rd base here at the forward location instead? Like, where is your hatchery? The answer is, I mean, it's only 2 bases. The answer is we're going for a Ling Flood. And SKillous has no idea, not yet. He's rechecking, reconfirming, trying to figure out what exactly Reynor is up to. He should be checking the linear 3rd base as well, because some Zerg players have been taking this as their 3rds. And there we go, that's exactly where SKillous is headed. Once he sees that there is no hatchery here, alarm bells should be flaring, and he should be getting ready defensively back at home. And there we go, we already have a shield battery on the way. SKillous has confirmed that Reynor's 3rd is insanely late, which is pretty sus. And oh my god! He's crazy! Okay, so we have a shield battery just to make sure we're safe and sound at our natural, and SKillous is going for a fleet beacon and a 2nd Stargate. We're rushing into Skytoss. Okay. let's go, Papi, let's go. Now, is he gonna live long enough to make a carrier? Because +1 and Ling speed, they're lined up pretty well with each other. Ling production has commenced, and it's going to be continuing, and Reynor is going to be banking up a lot of Lings here to lay siege upon this base. And sure, the shield battery and the overcharge are going to help, but We'll see, Poppy. We'll see. As the Lings are banking up back at home, the creep is being shredded. We can even waddle the queens across the map as well. And it looks like that's what Reynor is going to be going for. SKillous with very limited information. Unfortunately, SKillous, he actually didn't even make an Oracle first. So he has no idea what's happening. Like, it could be 2-base Muta for all he knows. We do have an Adept shading across the map, and the Adept will be getting into the natural, is going to be shut down. And if he clicked on the Lings, he should have seen +1. Lings are racing across the map. This base is going to be going down. Behind this, Reynor is droning. He's starting to saturate his bases. He's going to be containing SKillous to 2 bases of his own. But the carriers are coming out. Lair is on the way. Looking at the vision here, Reynor doesn't quite know what he's... Oh, no, now he should know now. Reynor should have an idea of what he's playing against because he should have checked the Cyber Core here. And if he sees it researching, it can only be +1 air. As the carriers are revealing themselves. But again, and they're going to reveal themselves to Lings as well, but like, how is SKillous going to expand? There's so many +1 melee Lings out on the map at every turn. Whenever SKillous tries to, he's forced to cancel time and time again. Carriers are being active, but we have all those queens from earlier. We have plenty of anti-air. We're going straight for the Spire. Meanwhile, SKillous just continuing carry production. He's got a 3rd Stargate on the way. Let's go. Reynor setting up for another Ling counterattack to deny that 3rd base for a 3rd time. Oh, as the queens do push on forward, they're focusing down the first carrier. It's getting quite low. SKillous does have to be careful, but he is using the terrain to his advantage. Meanwhile, the Lings show up, and once again... Oh, that is a kill, not a cancel. 400 minerals down the drain here for SKillous, bearing in mind that he's still stuck on a 2-base economy. Ay. The carriers are doing well for themselves. They have killed 5 queens already, which is good damage, but Reynor survives long enough for the spores to rotate over to defend. There we go, more spores are on the way. Reynor's taking this very seriously because now we're moving up to 4 carriers. Meanwhile, Reynor once again setting up for a counterattack. Is SKillous going to get his 3rd up? That's the question. We're here to find out. As the Lings are coming in once again, the carrier's out of position. Well, the carrier's more concerned with counterattacking. No, it's not going to get up. 3rd base is going to go down once again. Hopefully this time we get a cancel. There we go. Do get that cancel in the end. And the Lings are sticking around to do a little bit more damage. They take down the shield battery. They're taking down the pylons as well. SKillous continuing to be contained to 2 bases. And enough time has passed where now we're not just relying on spores and queens. Now we have corruptors as well. The carriers do rotate over towards the 3rd base. They're going to try and focus on the hatchery. And it looks like they should be able to get it, but no, they're forced to recall. 1 carrier goes down. Almost gets the 2nd. SKillous is in a lot of trouble. But you know what? This time, he's staying at home, and this time he should be able to get this 3rd up and running. But by this point, it may not even matter, because Reynor, he's working on his 4th base. He has a Corruptor army. Boy. SKillous by this point, he's forced to stay at home, not just because of the corruptors, but also so we can actually get a 3rd base up and running. And here we go, Reynor, he dives in, he picks off another carrier. Does force the activation of the Pulsar Beam. Prismatic alignment, that's it. And SKillous, he's going to be able to get his 3rd up. Let's go. 5th time's the charm. Was a 4th time. Does finally get it up and running, but behind this, Reynor, he's working towards a hive, so he's going to gain access to some spellcasters, ideally Vipers, to help deal with all these Void Rays. Without Archons on the ground, Vipers can have free reign, to be honest. Same with Corruptors as well. There's nothing to stop them from diving on top of this army. Archons, because of their splash damage, are kind of one of the most ideal supportive units for SkyToss. But because of our reduced economy, SKillous hasn't been able to really afford taking up in that direction. I mean, he doesn't even have the gateways to properly warp in High Templar to morph in Archons either. Like, SKillous he's just had a really rough start. A really rough start. And speaking of Vipers, there we go. Vipers are on the way. Reynor getting up to 5 bases at this point. Now, to be fair, the Vipers aren't here yet, so as SKillous moves out, the Lings move in. Prismatic Alignment is activated. He's going to be able to mow through these Corruptors. Reynor has to be very careful. He has to respect the Void Rays. Yeah, the hatchery has to be given up. At the same time, the Lings across the map don't quite power through the stack defense. The shield battery and the cannons are just a little bit too much. But again, really patient play out of Reynor. He committed a little bit too hard, and he did lose a good chunk of his Corruptors, sure. But he didn't lose any workers. He just transfers over to the right-hand side instead. He's repositioning his Spores, and he's just waiting for his Vipers. Now that his Vipers have enough energy for a Parasitic Bomb, SKillous can't engage. Not the same way he just did. And there we go. The Power Bombs are thrown down. Oh my god, they're doing so much damage to these Void Rays. Ooh, the Void Rays, they lose all of their shields. They do power through the Queens at least. Reynor does back off, but now he can dance with his Corruptors. Picking up Void Ray, one Void Ray at a time. And now that Prismatic Alignment runs out, he can just focus on every single one. SKillous. GG gets called, and Reynor will take the series 3-0. GG. Este SKillous. GG. Really, yeah, really interesting opener from Reynor. If you remember, he went for a very fast E-Ray chamber for +1 melee. Once he realized that his opponent was going to be as defensive as they were, we saw him just using them to contain SKillous, and my god, what was that? I think he forced 3 cancels and 1 kill, if I'm not mistaken, on the 3rd base of SKillous. Like, he was so on point with his Ling counter attacks. Whenever SKillous moved out with his carriers, the Lings were there to punish him. And Reynor, yeah, with a pretty patient play overall, just taking up into his lair tech, into his hive tech, saturating his bases. The scariest moment for Reynor was the initial move out with 2 carriers. If you remember, those 2 carriers killed 5 queens on their own. They killed 5 queens, but they couldn't snowball from there. They couldn't do any economic damage. After Reynor survived that, it was a lot more smooth sailing from there. And if you remember, because those carriers moved out to attack, we saw those cancels on that 3rd base. It was it was brutal, Papi, brutal. Ay. GG, well played. Congratulations to Reynor as he advances on to that qualifying match. Oh, and that means we have 1 series left as we quickly do switch our scenes over. There it is. Lambo took down a laser 3-0. Likewise, Reynor took down SKillous 3-0 as well. And now we have a best of 5 ZvZ to figure out, to confirm which of these 2 players is going to be replacing MaxPax in ESL Masters, in ESL Masters Summer, in DreamHack Yongshipping. Oh boy. 1 last series here. Again, a bit of a shorter broadcast today, just because it was only 3 matches. Yeah, I'm pretty excited overall. Lambo was looking pretty dominant over a laser earlier today, I'll be honest. It was it was surprisingly one-sided with how Lambo was able to handle and dictate that series. He does have the brains. He did coach Reynor for quite some time, if you remember as well. But we'll see if the student has surpassed the master. I mean, in a way, Reynor is still the favorite coming into this, but I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup nonetheless. Before we get there, though, we are going to be going on a short break. When we return, the final match. The best of 5, the ZvZ. See you soon. See you soon. Ah.